she said. Oh, gotcha.
Hello. I will start with thanking everybody for coming. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the flag salute. So, Amber, will you lead us?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to start with Donna will not be with us today. She is out sick, but she'll be joining us via Zoom. And Danny, do you know if we have any other participants on Zoom?
We have 7 people joining us on Zoom tonight.
All right, thank you. Do we have any changes or additions to the consent agenda?
Well, just the agenda in general, we are just reversing the order of the safety security update and the superintendent updates this evening. That's the only change.
Okay, I move that we approve our consent agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I was an aye as well. All right, we will move to public comment. I'm going to just read to you, as a school board, we welcome your feedback and invite you to share during the public comment portion of the meeting. When your name is called, please go to the podium, state your name and affiliation with the district. You will have 3 minutes to speak. There will be a timer on the screens. Generally, as a board, we do not respond to comments. However, if there is an actionable item, someone will reach out to you and follow up. Speakers are invited to offer feedback on district operations and programs. However, the board will not hear complaints concerning specific district personnel. If you need to speak to someone regarding specific employee concern, we can direct you to the appropriate staff member. So, with that said, do we have any public comment?
We do. Our first comment was submitted via email, so Dr. Ellis will be reading that one for us.
This was submitted by Tara Nathan. Good afternoon. I wanted to send an email with feedback regarding the new cell phone pouch policy going into effect this week. I feel a bit bamboozled by this part of the new policy, as it was not communicated clearly when we took the survey earlier this summer. I would have shared very clear opinions not in favor of a policy that prevents growing teenagers from practicing good technology habits on their own. So here is my feedback. High school students are adults in training. Removing their ability to self-manage and learn from mistakes when it comes to managing their cell phones during school hours is teaching these kids that they are not worthy of our trust and that they are not able to self-direct. I very much would prefer if the pouch was used as a disciplinary tool for students who cannot follow the off and away policy. This gives them a chance and clear consequences if they choose not to follow the directions of their teachers. How are they going to learn when we remove their ability to fail? Do we all realize and agree that kids learn from making mistakes? I 100% agree that cell phone use during school should be limited to only when necessary or at the direction of teachers. Even teachers are giving feedback that they do not agree with this policy. Let's also not forget that teenagers are smart. They will buy a burner phone to put in the pouch. They will buy a magnet to unlock themselves. They will lose it, and at what cost? The parents being forced to pay for and replace something that we don't get to have a say in whether our child has this device or not feels wrong. Society as a whole likes to create laws, change policy, all for a few bad eggs. Instead of working with those that need help to become more successful, we dumb everything down for everyone else. There is no one-size-fits-all rule that doesn't negatively affect a group of students. Kids with anxiety, kids who look after their siblings after school, kids that work part-time jobs, kids with mental health issues. I'm a huge supporter of Ridgefield schools. Most of you know that about me, and I'm not one to publicly complain or rant about RSD. I grew up here. I work hard at sharing information so people can be informed and educated. I love Ridgefield and our schools. I back you guys up left and right and really do usually feel that you have the best interest of our students and community in mind. The way in which this pouch policy came to be is disheartening. I don't support it as it stands now. As I said before, as a tool for those who need redirected or discipline, yes, great idea. Not a blanket policy, not a one-size-fits-all solution. Please reconsider the pouch policy for students that can show responsibility, technology, management on their own. Thank you for your time, Tara Nathan.
Thank you.
It's me every time, sorry.
Okay, our next speaker signed up to be on Zoom, so let me just see if they're on here. Okay, I don't see her. She also submitted her comment to be read if she was unable to make the meeting. So, Dr. Ellis, if you could read Megan Dudley's comment.
Yes, this is submitted by Megan Dudley, excuse me. I'm not sure if I will get done with work on time to log in. In case I do not, please feel free to read my comments. Thank you, Dr. Jenny and School Board, for all of your prep work in researching ways to help our students to stay engaged during school hours. I appreciated all of the opportunities to participate in the surveys over the summer and the many ways that you sent out the surveys so that people would see them. With 34 states in the District of Columbia and counting adopting similar strategies to limit smart device use during the school day, it seems that we are on the cusp of a sea of change in education. With the data that you shared of the improvement of test scores last year with just using the phone storage in the classrooms, I'm excited to see how this new policy and procedure will play out. I think Director Jones said it at the last meeting, we won't know until we try, and I think it's worth a try. As adults, many of us aren't able to be off our devices, and many of the daily programs we use are designed so that we will spend more time on them and keep scrolling. I don't think it's reasonable to expect students to keep them off and away on their own, as evidenced by how many phones were still related to the majority of the disciplinary events in the schools during the period of no phones during class last year. It wasn't enough. I don't agree with the argument that students having cell phones increases their safety. Safety experts agree that everyone in a building using a cell phone in a crisis does not help. It can impair communication, create confusion and panic, and impede public safety response time. Although I do agree that we should go forward with the Yonder pouch procedure, I think we should honor students' accommodations, especially those who specifically have it written into their 504 and IEP plans, that they would benefit from using noise-canceling headphones and other technology because of their needs. I know that with any changes, there will be an adjustment period and some pain with the change. I hope that our community will give the school district the grace to work out the details and know that the students' well-being is at the heart of their decision. I am really grateful for the board discussion and transparency in all of the decision-making process.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one was on Zoom as well, so hold on just a moment. Okay, it was from Matthew McPherson, and I don't see him on the list here. So we will go on to the next one, and I'll check before we end. So Travis Goodwin.
Good evening, everyone. I want to speak today about something spreading across our school.
Sir, can you, yep, podium, thank you.
Thank you, not starting my time. I'll be pleasant.
The reason for that is it's microphoned and we're broadcasting.
Don't care for that, but yeah.
No worries.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I want to speak today about something spreading across our schools, Yonder pouches. Lock away students' phones during the day. On the surface, it sounds like a way to reduce distractions, but when you look deeper, there are serious questions we need to ask. First, what message does this send to students? It says, we don't trust you. Instead of teaching responsibility or how to manage technology, the very skills they'll need in college, the workplace, the real world, we take the devices away. That's not preparing them for life, that's avoiding the issue. Second, what happens in emergencies? Whether it's a lockdown, an accident, a natural disaster, phones are lifelines. Parents deserve the peace of mind knowing that they can reach their child. I pay money so I can reach my child. Instantly, locking these phones and pouches daily, response risk times puts safety at risk, puts you at liability. Third, accountability. Phones aren't just entertainment, they're tools for transparency. It lets students document bullying, harassment, even misconduct amongst teachers, administrators, the rest of you who don't want to be held accountable. Again, liability. If you remove that tool, you're not just reducing distractions, you're controlling the narrative. And in schools, just like in government, transparency matters. All of you are elected officials. These are also equity issues. Many students rely on their phones for translation tools, internet access, or apps that support their learning if they're 504 forward. Taking away phones punish the students who may need them most. And let's not forget the cost. These pouches are expensive for RFD pouches, right? You were using lock-away things that basically cost nothing before that was working. Instead of spending taxpayer dollars on locking devices away, why not invest in more teachers, better counseling, digital literacy, actually addressing the challenges of technology, because it's not going to change. Finally, we need to consider the precedent. If we normalize lock-away phones at school, what stops us from spreading to other parts of society? Public meetings, workplace, protests. Do you really want to teach the next generation that it's acceptable for authorities to silence and control access to information whenever it feels convenient? So yes, distraction is real, but the solution isn't restriction, it's education. Let's focus on engagement, stronger teaching strategies, equipping students with the skills to manage the technology and responsibility. Yonder pouches don't solve problems, they mask them. Our kids deserve better. We don't put everyone in one box just because it works. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to check one more time for the last. Okay, I don't see him, so I believe that concludes our public comment.
All right. That will take us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Thank you. We're up to 14 online now too, just in case you didn't see that when she was checking.
Thank you. I did ask.
There's always a few people
Because I
that
always
hop on
want to
a few
know,
minutes late.
you know,
so,
who else is really here with us.
I mean, that feels like
It's nice to know.
a lot of people with our crowd here today too. All right. Lots of things to talk about again. And after I'm finished, then Dr. Charlotte Ellis is going to share a safety and security update, the first in a series of safety and security updates. But we're going to continue on from our last meeting with our OSPI state updates. So last time we talked about sort of the federal landscape, some of the laws and compliance that's now required. And now I'm going to get into what is really the heart of our work, which is student learning. So learning standards, State Bill 5462 passed in 2024, requiring us to update our curriculum review policy. It's on the agenda tonight for adoption. You had first read of that, so that one's going to get taken care of fairly quickly. The other one that we've not talked about too much over the past year is the updated standards project. It continues to be delayed. So the timeline on this has shifted multiple times over the last couple of years. There's been some staffing changes at OSPI that are further delaying it at this point. They have advised us to go ahead and start moving forward with the new draft math standards. However, they're suggesting, bless you, that we wait before implementing the new ELA standards because they're expecting more changes to be made. We are required to implement them beginning in the 27-28 school year, so that's not this year, not next year, but the following. And based on the new timeline, additional subjects implementations will also be pushed out, so we wouldn't be looking at new science, social studies, world languages, health, and PE standards until the 28-29 school year, and then arts, computer science, and educational technology in the 29-30, I have a hard time with that one, school year as well. The graphic on here, you can find this on the OSPI website. There's additional information about the standards, but they have all these little icons, and where you see what looks like binoculars, it's actually a little schoolhouse building. That's when things are actually getting implemented. We also have legislation around the high school and beyond plan. So a couple of RCW links there for those that want to go and read that, but all districts in our state are required to transition to a statewide high school and beyond plan, HSBP platform. The one that we are all required to implement now is called School Links. It has to be done by the end of next year. We were given the option to implement this year or next year. Those were the choices. So we opted to jump in. We're implementing the new platform this year. Students begin this process by taking an interest inventory in 7th grade. They begin their actual high school beyond plan in 8th grade, and then they update their plan throughout their high school career. So it's one online really folder for them, and all their information is stored. So even for students who move, as long as they're within the state, all of their high school beyond planning documents go with them once this is fully implemented. And I thought we would just watch a short little video clip so you could see what it's about.
The High School and Beyond Plan is really a way for students to explore who they are, who they want to become, and how can they get there.
Moving to one platform, in the state, it just provides that consistency that everybody's working from the same system, which is really nice.
This is seen more as a holistic, district-wide collaboration.
The platform has helped us to create a more accessible high school and beyond plan. And it's like if I do this in an interview with my kid, on a paper, like nobody else sees it, nobody else has it, but on the computer, a teacher can check it, the Career Center can check it.
So Schoollinks is supportive for all students. It gives that opportunity, especially for our multi-language learners. Students can navigate through the icons that are very user-friendly, and so that's supportive for all of my students regardless of their vocabulary needs.
So when I took an assessment in Schoollinks, it told me about how I was good at communication, about having good connections to people.
Using the platform, we're able to push information out to students based on their interest. We have one college and career counselor for the district. That's a lot of students for her to try and personalize information for and get the information they need. So having a platform available to push that information out based on things that students have selected really helps them connect with opportunities.
Since I put on the test that I was interested in the military, so it recommended that I take the ASVAB.
The efficiency is such at the administrative level, it really allows us to understand some real-time data, where students are currently virtually sitting in these classes, what classes they're most interested in. So forecasting is immediately connected to resource allocation.
Pretty much a vast majority of what I do with students does involve Schoollinks pretty extensively. So I always tell students that Schoollinks is really the communication tool between them and me.
So as a counselor, I can visually quickly see, a student didn't complete an art credit. Okay, it's red. It's nice and easy to see, and I can go through each student pretty quickly.
With College Application Manager, it made it really easy to get letters of recommendation that you need to apply to college. I don't know how I would have sent them in without Schoollinks. But what really stands out about Schoollinks to me is there's just this hub of opportunities. We're talking jobs, internships, job shadows. And Schoollinks does a really good job putting it in one place.
My biggest takeaway from it is it's helped open my eyes to what's really out there for me. It helps a lot more than you'd think to have at least somewhat of a plan of what you want to do, where you want to go. And on top of that, actually knowing that the things I love to do can be something I do in the future is amazing.
If you go to the OSPI website and you just type in the search HSBP, it'll take you to the page where you can find this video. I edited out the first half of Mrs. Reichdahl talking for 2.5 minutes, but if you want to hear her, you can go and watch the whole video. So there's lots of other details there, but I think about, it's been a while since I was in high school, but getting reference letters for college and literally like teachers writing and putting them in a sealed envelope and giving it to me, and then I had to get it in the mail and send it off. I just think this is going to be super helpful for kids as they're planning what their future looks like. And then if they're opting for college, there's some ways to help manage all of that information between scholarships and doing your FAFSA and all the things. So it also is a platform that talks equally, not just about college, but about going straight into the workforce, what are the career paths, apprenticeships, everything that you can imagine. So I appreciate that this is a platform that really honors all career interests, because we need people who do all kinds of things in this world. So, okay, and then now we're gonna kind of shift just a little bit and talk about some assessment data. So we're starting globally. So this is a graph here that you're looking at This is scores of 15-year-olds over time. This is the United States as a whole, up against the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, across the nation. This is the PISA exam, the Program for International Student Assessment, that is provided periodically. And so you can see the scores here. The US is the kind of teal colored, the darker color, and the OECD average is the yellow or the lighter colored one. And so I think we could take a lot out of this, but the thing that I think is worth really paying some attention to is mathematics, because we're seeing a huge drop in math skill performance in our country, but really around the world, and it is trending down. So something I think our state is very concerned about, something I think we are concerned about as well. Then taking a look just within the United States, these are on the bar chart there on the left-hand side. This is the Smarter Balanced Assessment, the SBA. These are the scores across all the states that do the Smarter Balanced Assessment. So all these states listed here, we all do the same assessment where we have the same standards, and they're part of Common Core. So these are all the states that were a part of that project. And so you can see, where does our state rank in English language arts overall in comparison to those other districts. These are students who demonstrated consistent grade level knowledge or above, which means they get a final score of 3 or 4. Also, OSPI has done some taking a look at the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or the NAEP exam, NAEP, and looking at the 2024 results. They looked at all of our states across the U.S., and statistically significantly, Washington is, there's only 5 states ahead of us in reading, and there's 4 states ahead of us in reading in 8th grade. So I think it is helpful to know there is a huge investment in education in the state of Washington, and there is some benefit. Nobody's happy with 52.6%, and everybody's facing the challenge, I think, is helpful to know. In mathematics, same exact data. So you can see among the Smarter Balanced, we're actually 4th out of that group of states. And then again, in a comparison to NAEP, we have 4 states outperforming us in math. At 4th grade, we have 14 outperforming us in 8th grade math. So we're losing ground as students are aging up through the system. So what about the Smarter Balanced Assessment, and really, like, what do these scores mean? When I'm saying a 3 and a 4, that doesn't really mean much to most of us. The scores are ranked based on proficiency. So I'm going to actually start at the bottom. A level 1 basically is an indicator that students do not consistently demonstrate grade level knowledge and skills. There's multiple questions about different standards, and so they're all really at grade level, and depending on how they're performing, if they are not consistently answering or doing tasks correctly, then they're going to end up at a 1. At level 2, 3, and 4, those are all performance of some level of grade level expectation. So at a 2, students are demonstrating foundational grade level knowledge and skills with a limited range of complexity. So they're getting perhaps the more basic versions of that grade level standard. At a level 3, they're demonstrating consistent grade level knowledge and skills with a broad range of complexity. At level 4, we consider that to be advanced grade level knowledge and skills with deep understanding and a full range of complexity. Important just for folks to understand that the way the state talks about this data has changed over the last decade or so. Initially, it was we wanted everyone at level 3 and 4 because at the time, and to link back to the high school and beyond plan, but really our public education system was saying everyone should go to college. And level 3 and 4 demonstrate a level of understanding that puts kids on pace to be able to enter college on grade level in college and not have to do any remedial coursework. But we know that not everyone is going to go to college, nor should they. And so level 2, foundational grade level knowledge, may be appropriate depending upon the career path of the student. So the state has now really started to talk about having a level 2, 3, or 4 is demonstrating grade level performance to varying degrees, right, of accuracy and complexity. And then that matters when you start to look at the scores, because in general, the state reports the scores just for 3s and 4s. So if you take a look at the stacked bar chart on the right, how many demonstrated foundational grade level knowledge or above among all students expected to test, the 2, 3s, and 4s is 70.9% in English language arts and 63.3% in mathematics. And if we were to take out the foundational and only looked at kids who were on track for college entrance, that's a significantly smaller group of students. So again, just kind of taking a look at this, but a piece that I want you to just be aware of, do the test completion rates affect state and district reported scores? And you would think, why would that impact our scores? And yet it does. And I encourage folks to let OSPI know how they feel about that. The rates are reported, our report card as a district and every other district in our state are based on 100% of the enrolled students. So students do not complete the exam because they ended up having the flu that week and they didn't get to make it up. That basically goes in like a 0. And we know all kinds of things about grading nowadays, but what we know is zeros unfairly disadvantage an individual student. They also are going to cause a change in the average of the district that is not reflective of the actual performance of the students who took the test. So in English language arts, the pass rate for all students was 70.9%. That's if we include every kid, whether they tested or not. If we look at just the kids who completed the exam, we actually had a 74% pass rate. And in mathematics, it went from 63.3 to 66.3 actual pass rate. So not a huge difference, but there is a difference. And I think when we're looking at data, it's important to be precise and accurate. This is just going to demonstrate for you where those changes happen. And you'll see the trend of this is that the higher in the grade levels that we go, the bigger disparity or discrepancy that we start to see between the number of students that are enrolled versus the number of students who completed the exam. So when you look at this, this is looking at English language arts level 2, 3, and 4, so on grade level at varying degrees of complexity and consistency. Third grade, out of every student, if we include them all in that simple math equation, we get a pass rate of 69.9%. If we took out the zeros, we actually had 71.7%. You can see that the difference there is less than 2%. The percentage of students who didn't have a complete score is 2.4%. As you go up the grade levels, you'll see there at 10th grade, we have 8.7% that didn't complete the exam. That could be because some of them in their individualized education plans have an alternative assessment. We have what's known as the WAAIM, which is an alternative measure for some students who have significant cognitive delays or deficits. And then the more students who are not taking the standard exam, you can see the difference in the score becomes more significant. So 7.3%, 75.8 versus an 83.1. Same exact information, but level 3 and 4. So level 3 and above, these would be the, again, students considered on track for college coursework. So again, at 10th grade, 58.9%. If we took out the zeros, we're actually at 64.6%. So you can see this similar pattern when we look at math. This is the math foundational level, level 2, 3, and 4. Again, grade level performance. And you can see there's a swing there of about almost 6% at 10th grade. And then level 3s and 4s, less of a change there, 3.3%. So just important, I think, for us to be aware, and this is statewide data. This is not Ridgefield School District. This is all of Washington State. All public school districts are required to administer the exams. We're required to do that under federal law, so we're in compliance by doing all of these things. So now we're going to look at actual Ridgefield School District data. And the first one is just 5-year trend in English language arts, or ELA, what percentage of students met grade level standards. So here is the interesting part. Although OSPI is now talking about this level 2, 3, 4, when it comes to actually meeting it for graduation pathway, they require a cut score, which is in the mid-2s range. So again, super helpful for those of us following all the rules. So in the orange, the bolded orange percentages, those are Ridgefield's proficiency rates. That's the number of students who performed at that high 2, 3, or 4 level. The blue non-bold right below it in each one is the state pass rate. And then you have the RSD compared to Washington State. And I've given you both. So the top row, ELA consistent performance, that's the 3s and 4s and the comparison. And then you have the foundational, which is the 2s, 3s, and 4s and the comparator there. So in English language arts in general, we're about 10% above the state average, and that's been fairly consistent, but you can see that it has bounced around some year to year. Looking at the same trend data for mathematics, which across the board are lower than the English language arts scores. Again, the orange bold is the Ridgefield School District, so that's the top line of percentages. Right below that is the state pass rate, and then you have the difference there. And you can see in math, like we're actually, I think, holding steady or even gaining a little bit of ground, which is nice to see. We also have what is known as the WCAS, the Washington Comprehensive Assessment of Science. This is only given in the 5th, 8th, and 11th grades, where the Smarter Balanced Assessment in language arts and mathematics is given every single grade from 3rd to 8th grade, and then once in high school at 10th grade. So this is the science data, again for 5 years. The top row is Ridgefield School District. The non-bold below that is the state pass rate, and then you have the differences there. And ours, again, has kind of bounced around, but in general, it's trended down. But there's been a lot of up and down with the science. And then I wanted to share with you just a look at the cohort data, and I've color-coded it because it's hard to track otherwise. So when you're looking at a group of students, so I'm going to start in 18, 19, third graders, and they're in that darkest color with the white numbers. So third graders in 18, 19 in English language arts, they scored a 70.7%, meaning 70.7% of the kids were at grade level. They were proficient or above. 3s and 4s, we're not including the foundational skills in this one. 1920, no scores, COVID, right? 2021, funky testing schedules. So you'll see like they weren't 10th graders, they were 11th graders because we tested them, but it was like a year late, right? So there's some weird stuff with that, but you can see that same group before COVID to after COVID lost ground. They lost about 8 percentage points. Now the standards also get tougher as kids go up, right? So it's not like we're giving them the same test every year. We're giving them a harder test every year. You can see the following year, we're still really coming out of COVID. We see another drop. 22, 23, almost stable. 23, 24, we're starting to move back up. And then we don't test in 9th grade. So then this year when we test, we'll see those third graders from 18, 19, where do they end up? So I think this can be helpful because you're following a cohort of children. It's mostly the same kids as they're traveling up through the system. It is in many ways more helpful to look at the cohort data than to look at like third grade because it's different third graders every year. So that's not really a great comparator. I also want to show you the mathematics cohort data. So this is the math over time. It's a little scary, I'll be honest. So you can kind of track across and you're going to see that for the most part, we're losing ground in mathematics. We're in good company. We're losing ground as a state. We're losing ground as a country, and the world itself is losing ground. But this is a cause for concern. We have, I think, a lot of hope as we are looking at our 6, 7, 8. So I will, like, if you take a look at third grade in 21, 22, and they had a big drop off when they went to 5th grade. That isn't uncommon. It's that transition year. Transition years are hard on kids. And then you can see though in 6th grade last year, a big uptick. We implemented new math curriculum last year. Unusual to see that big of a jump in a single year. So bravo to our 6th grade math teachers because they really moved a lot of kids this last year. And so as the rest of the teachers, 7th and 8th, continue to understand how to utilize that curriculum, I would anticipate we'll start to see some movement there. K-5, we haven't had a math adoption in quite some time, and in fact, we postponed it in order to do the English language arts adoption that we implemented last year. And we're not doing it this year because we've got other pilots going and the restraints of the budget. But certainly it's something that we're going to have to start digging into because we're continuing to lose ground. So I just wanted to give you kind of the overview because the state did release all of this data in the last 2 weeks, like right after our last board meeting. So wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what it looks like from a global, national, state, and local level. And then we will have Tiffany Gould, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, be here for a more in-depth presentation. And she will share with you all of the subgroup data that we've been looking at over the last year as well. But I just wanted to at least get you an overview tonight. I'm going to take a pause before I move on if there's any discussion about the OSPI and academic pieces.
I have just a question for myself, I guess, too. When you mentioned the alternative exam that the 10th graders might take, some of those students, did you say that those students are still counted then as zeros in the overall test score, even though they're taking an alternative exam?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, question, and you did answer it, but the foundational, at 2.5, you're graduating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, so how do you decide what's a 2.3? Is there?
The state tells us, yeah, we have absolutely no influence or control over that. So they provide the cut score that counts for the purposes of graduation pathway, meeting that graduation pathway requirement. There are lots of other ways for students to meet their graduation pathway. So if they don't meet it on the exam, they can take the SAT, the ACT, or the ASVAB, and there are certain scores that are basically, again, cut scores that will count for that level of proficiency. They can take a series of career technical education, CTE courses. They have to take 4 courses in the same career trajectory, and so there's lots of options with that. They can take a running start or college in the high school dual credit course in English language arts or mathematics. If they pass the course, then we assume that they must have high school proficiency because they passed a college level class. They can meet it that way. So there are a lot of other ways that students do meet the pathway requirement for graduation.
And then second question, with that chart where it said, U.S. overall, but also worldwide math is dropping. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is how math is being taught now? Like it seems like math is different now than it was 30 years ago. How they teach it. That's one of those things where math is math, but it's not technically anymore because.
Yeah.
So is something tied with that where it's just not working?
That's a great question, President Jones. I think you will find varied approaches, even amongst math teachers within our own district, let alone across the state, the country, or the world. So I don't know that it's like the new math that's the problem. I do think, there's a lot of, confusion or misnomers around some of the things that we do in math now that we didn't used to. I was a really successful math kid and I loved math because there was always a right answer. And I knew I got the right answer, right? And my dad growing up was like, you just follow the rules. Math, you just follow the rule and you get the answer. It's simple. You don't need to get stressed about that. And I just believed him because I was a little kid. And then I got to calculus my senior year of high school. And I was like, I can't say what I would say if we were in my office, but it kind of blew my mind, and I never took another math class because I couldn't get past into this creative mathematics, and I was really good at memorization. I have pretty good memory, so formulas, yep, I can regurgitate that on a test, but if you expect me to actually really understand or apply that math, hopeless. And I'm part of that. If you're someone who's always like, is 7 times 8 really 56? You learned math like I learned math. We never really trust that one because we just memorized all those math facts. Remember the time tests? I really like those too. I got a lot of stickers. But they didn't teach me how to be a critical thinker of mathematics. And a lot of what we do in math now is around discovery and looking at math as more of a science, because truly math is the language of science, right? And so it does look different than it used to. I don't know why we're seeing it fail kind of across the board. It is a really interesting dilemma. I'm happy to look into it some more and see what research is out there for you all.
Well, no, you explained a lot right there. It's kind of how you look at math, so I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just concerning how far that's dropped off.
Very concerning, yeah. Calculators, maybe, I don't know.
A question that came to mind for me around this, and then also what you're sharing around new standards, and I just also wonder if the tests aren't changing enough to match the way that math is mathing these days. So I'm curious about that alignment of assessment and actual teaching, and what we're asking kids to learn versus what we're testing them. So I don't know, because I'm not a math teacher, but I would be curious to just keep an eye on that as they are updating standards, and hopefully assessments that match the standards would be my hope that we would see that. So thank you for updating on the statewide conversation around that. Also, I remember asking about a year ago when Sunset Ridge was presenting about, was there any indication that a 5th grade transition was helping, hurting, or neutral in terms of, student assessments, just as a curiosity as we were starting that conversation around 5th grade. So I'll also be curious to see, and it will take years to kind of, and if they change all the curriculum and all the tests at the same time. So we may not have any sort of comparative, but that is really startling to see that level of drop for 5th grade. And I hope maybe 6th grade is a little bit of a better year to transition, but I imagine you see that in any district anytime you change a school.
Yeah, we will all hope for the assessments to be aligned to the standards. And often the assessment is delayed, so the standards will be implemented and the assessment will likely not be updated for a year or two after that. And it usually takes a few years to fine-tune the assessment to make sure we're actually measuring what we think we're measuring. In terms of how we teach and then how we test, this is one of the big challenges with standardized assessments, because students can demonstrate knowledge in a lot of ways. And in general and in life, we do many things in groups or with partners, and people play to their strengths, and standardized assessments are solo ventures. So that is definitely a challenge. It will be interesting to see the change with the 5th grade moving to elementary. And as we think about a math curriculum adoption, we will need to adopt for kinder through 5th grade, because the new adoption that we put in place this last year was just 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So that is actually lined up well for us to move forward.
Another question. I might have just evaporated into the ether, but I was thinking when you were saying that adopting the new curriculum, are there some already that are on the horizon, or we know of that are good ones we just haven't yet because of we need to wait, or are we still waiting for a new curriculum to be developed that we're going to adopt potentially? Like, what does that look like, I guess?
Yeah, that's not why we're waiting. We're waiting because of finances. When you purchase curriculum, English language arts is the most expensive, but mathematics is soon behind, because you're looking at multiple grade levels, and a significant amount of time that's invested in the teaching day in those two subject areas. There are some options out there. None of them are going to be aligned to the new Washington state standards. We're not a large enough market to drive textbook vendors. They typically align to California and Texas because those are the biggest purchasers of materials. So it is always a tool for our teachers. It is not everything, right? Which is why we are doing the professional learning teamwork and the guaranteed standards work, because then we look at what are the things in the materials that support those standards we've identified. No longer should we really be doing the march from the beginning to the end of the textbook. That's not really how teaching and learning works so much anymore. So part of it is financial. We're gonna have to budget for it. The other was based on feedback from staff. So you'll recall we did a survey last spring to ask about potential implementation of a social emotional learning curriculum pilot, Character Strong, which there was broad support for. We also asked about elementary math and elementary science. And there were many more of our elementary teachers who said, let's tackle science first. The English language arts materials, EL Ed for 4th and 5th, and Wit and Wisdom for kindergarten through 3rd grade, combined with really great reading and really great handwriting, like that, it is a huge lift to learn those sets of materials, all of the strategies that are embedded, all of the routines that you have to teach the kids. So it was a big lift for our teachers last year to implement. And really, this is year 2. They are still learning and refining their practice with those materials. So I think it was wise, honestly, on their part, and to say let's do science first, because it is a little bit more plug and play, and we're doing just again a pilot to check out the open SciEd materials. So we're doing 2 of the 4 units. Science is also an item. We don't necessarily do science every day at the elementary level, but we do language arts and mathematics every day. So we gotta pace the work for our teachers too. Okay. I'm moving on. Maybe I'm trying to click. It's not clicking. Okay. Good stuff. Construction things today. So this is Sunset Ridge Elementary, everyone. Sunset Ridge, everyone. We have walls. I'm so excited. So you can kind of see in the foreground, this is one section of the building. That's not the whole building, but you can see kind of right behind it where the shiny, that's the foundation of the other wing of the building. And then there are 2 additional, I don't know if they're listening, they're like, what is she doing with her hands? We can't even see her. But there's 2 additional sections kind of behind there near the tree line if you're looking that direction. So the way that construction works and things are staying on schedule is we do all the dirt work and then for the first foundation, and then we start doing the timber there, right? And then we go to the next foundation, and then we'll start doing timber there, and we'll go to the next foundation. So we're keeping the foundation guys busy is really what we're doing, and then the timber guys busy, and then everybody else busy. So it's phased that way to ensure that we're able to finish the project on time. But things are looking really good. And you can watch the live stream. If you go there, it's just a static picture and there's no walls. Click the play button, and then it shows you what's actually really happening. So it's kind of fun to do. And then also very exciting, in the last week or 2 here, we finalized our furniture, fixtures, and equipment, FF&E, furniture vendor. So we did a request for proposals process. We went through all of that. We looked at everyone who submitted. We have a scoring by committee process that happens, and our successful vendor was Environments Plus WorkPoint. They are all over the country, but they do have an office in Portland, so we're excited that they are local and we'll be able to get together in person to work through the process. All proposals include a letter of interest, the staff that will be assigned to the project, their relevant experience, safety standards and compliance, product quality, specific references for other educational institutions, and warranty and supplier information. And these are just some pictures that were part of their proposal, so you can just get a little bit of a flavor of the various items that are available and could be part of our new school. We also selected our playground vendor. Playground equipment will be working on this with Northwest Playground Equipment. We had multiple folks that put in, but this was a successful, and they are based out of Issaquah, so also pretty local for us, and lots of the same things that get submitted. But you can see here several of their playgrounds. All these ones pictured are in Washington or Oregon. So I kind of really like the tiles with the mosaic, so I'm checking into that. But excited to have those on board, and we'll be moving forward with the process of selection next. Other construction updates for you, Ridgefield High. All of these pictures are from Union Ridge because Ridgefield High is pretty much finished. It's the last of the punch list items. We're expecting full completion by the end of the month, which is a week from today. Union Ridge Elementary, 2 weeks ago, I said, we'll be done by September 30th. And now I have to say, well, it looks like early October. So it's continuing. Part of what the issue is you have these fun pictures. So the picture in the middle lower, this is one of our lovely HVAC units that you can see here sitting on the roof. They are past their useful life, so we just keep like paper clip and gluing them together. And they're in a state that it was not possible to lift them. So in another board meeting, I showed you a picture where they had lifted one up at Ridgefield High School. These we can't move, because if we do, they're probably not going to turn back on. So there's some additional work that has to be done to basically waterproof around it. There's a bunch of additional sheet metal work that needs to occur, so that's taking a little bit more time. We also have 3 skylights in some classrooms in Building A that need to be replaced, so we have to schedule a subcontractor to do that. It has to occur during the daytime, so we're hoping to do that on one of the non-school days coming up soon. And then when the subcontractor pulled all the gutters off, often they will pull them off and then reinstall them, but they opted to say, we're just going to replace them. So we're getting all new gutters at Building A, except for the entrance, at no additional cost. So that's lovely too. So lots of work still happening. That's what happens when you have a 70-plus-year-old building. There's just a lot of things you find as you start to peel things back. Additional operations updates. Last time we talked about just a recap of the water fixtures. We are actually retesting today. We're retesting this week. And as soon as we have the results from that, then I'll share it back with the board and the community at that time. And then facilities use, we talked about that last meeting as well, but just a calendaring update for you and one clarification. We talked about the 3 groups in the fee schedule. I just wanted to call attention to group number 2 is for nonprofits and for non-district youth athletics and activities. Those could be nonprofit or for-profit athletics and activities, but as long as they're for students, for kids, then they get that nonprofit rate. So I just wanted to bring attention to that. And then the other piece, the calendar is scheduled to open quarterly. And because Lorian, our new facilities secretary, is so amazing, she has all these dates figured out. So the calendar, like drum roll, right? Like will open on October 1st for winter. So then people can book for November 15th through February 28th. It will open again January 15th for the spring season, April 15th for the summer season, and July 1st for next fall. So she spent a lot of time kind of working through all the parts and pieces. It opens for everybody, whether they have an agreement with us or not. It opens for everybody at those times. I do want to just clarify again that the Rourke is a shared asset, and the Rourke scheduling is really through the city. It is still through Facilitron, and we help support that. That's part of the shared agreement. But the rules are set by the city for the Rourke. So when we're talking about us, it's all of our fields, everywhere, all of our campuses, our buildings. So just wanted to be clear about that. I'll pause right there before I go to the last section.
I got a question. With the, right there, group 2, the for-profit. So me, like just guy that's in the community, I want to build this basketball tournament. And kids are going to play in that basketball tournament, but I'm going to charge every kid $20. And I'm going, like, this is a moneymaker for me. So kids are playing, but the money's not going directly back to kids, it's going to me. Do I qualify as group 2?
You do. And I can see the like, what? On your face, President Jones. But here's why. Because what we have found is folks, before we made this change, if they were for profit, we might have a coach who doesn't get paid, but it's a club team. It might be someone who lives in our community, is even a teacher or coach for us in the school system, but they're doing this club team. It's not a nonprofit agency. All of the club sports are not nonprofit for the most part, but it's our students, right? And so those folks were being charged the same as a commercial use, right? And so trying to winnow down, are you really a for-profit, or are you for-profit but not really for-profit? It's not a good use of our time, of our district resources. So if it's for kids and it's serving youth, we're going to err on the side of providing the facility at a lesser rate.
Just to be clear, I'm totally good with that. That was the murky waters, right? And that's where we were getting into hot water.
Yes.
You qualify, you don't qualify.
Right.
I'm all about use the facilities, get as many kids out there as possible. Like that's a win-win. It's the clarity, and this clears it up for me. You said yes.
Yep. If it's for kids, we're
doing
not
it.
charging the full price.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on that one? Okay. I saved my favorite topic for the end of my presentation today. So student electronic devices, we've been talking about this a lot, and we heard more feedback tonight during public comment as well. So since our last board meeting 2 weeks ago, we have received feedback from an additional 7 parents. One was pro the new system, one was kind of neutral, just more questions about how some things worked, and 5 were against the new policy and procedure. These are all the things, the concerns and questions that came in. The ones that have asterisks, that's because it was in multiple. So safety, of the 7 that we received, 4 people mentioned safety. Of the 7 we received, 3 people said what we were doing before was working just fine. 3 people said, I don't want to be responsible financially because you're making me take this pouch. We also had some comments about illegal search and seizure of cars and backpacks, or illegal surrender of personal property. So I did just want to, one more time, reiterate that nobody is going to search cars or search backpacks. If a student has a phone out, that's in violation of the policy, and we'll address it per our discipline procedures. And if a student continues to have their phone out in a non-compliance or insubordinate way for the procedures, then we will take the phone, just like we would take other things that a student may have that is causing a distraction. We had a couple of people that sent in some questions about FERPA concerns, student privacy, particularly around outing students who have anxiety or medical 504s by not having a pouch. So again, I just want to share, we have pouches that look just like the other pouches but have a Velcro, so that students who may need that, so that they can access it to check their blood sugar, for example. That doesn't out them any more than the pump on their arm or the finger prick device they carry around, or those kinds of things. We've had a couple people who were concerned that the office will refuse to let students call home. I have followed up with Dr. Ellis, our principal supervisor, and directed her to enforce with every principal that they have a meeting with their office team, that students are allowed to call their parents if they come to the office and need to do that. So that has occurred to ensure that we don't have that issue. We had a couple more things around classwork. We've talked about this before, but all of our staff are really working through alternative ways to make sure students can turn in their classwork or do their tasks or get emails, etc. Another one that has come up is around the pouches not being in the survey. I'm going to talk specifically about that one in a moment. Some folks that don't want to store the devices, we had one who said, can they just turn it in every day? That was actually our initial thought, but the manpower and womanpower to collect them all, redistribute them all, check them all back out every day was more daunting than checking it out for the duration. We had someone who again said kids should have access at lunch. Somebody said, well, that's their personal time. And again, I like respectfully, I disagree. We hold students accountable to all kinds of rules from the time they hit our campus to the time that they leave, and we're responsible for them during that time. One person made a statement that we're criminalizing the entire student body. I think this is similar to one of the public comments we had today around why don't you just do the pouches if it's a disciplinary. And I'll talk about that a little bit with the why tonight as well. But really, like this, the pouches are not a consequence. They're a tool to support our students in being successful in meeting the new policy. Again, districts should be teaching self-control, that people will violate the policy with home-bought magnets or fake devices, misuse of district funds, concerned about the cost. We've heard that one in some of the prior ones. We had one person who suggested a parent opt-out, and we had one person who demanded a parent opt-out option. That's very limited what we as a public school district allow families to opt out of. There's very few items: AIDS education, sexual health education, going to camp. These are really small, like limited circumstances that we do opt out from school policies, procedures, and what is our management, classroom management, and school management procedures. And then finally, distrust of district leadership, which I'll be honest, kind of hurt. And so there's been a lot of words and things, but we're just going to continue to try to lean in and answer every email, answer every question. We're continuing to update our FAQ page and a variety of other things to just, again, try to make sure the accurate information is out there for folks, and address concerns as they come to us in an effort to repair that.
The bold and asterisks represented what? I know you shared it, but remind me.
Additional people.
Okay.
So of the 7 parents, 4 of the 7 talked about emergencies. So that's that one. And with the three additional people said the same thing.
And then one that's not bolded but also has asterisks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The 3 bolder because we're going to talk about those tonight.
Got it.
Yeah. So of all of these, and then thinking back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago and prior to that, all the feedback that we've had from folks, there are, I think, 3 things that keep coming up, maybe 4. So I want to address 3 of them, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ellis to address the big one. She's ready. Okay. So, but before that, just communication update. I've already kind of shared this. We pushed out the safety 1-pager we talked about the last board meeting in our newsletter for families via Parent Square. We are also launching an FAQ feedback form that will be open for the duration of the school year. So as people think of other questions or things come up as we're implementing, or they just have feedback as we go through the year. So these are live links. But also Joe Weigert, our Director of Communications, will be pushing this out this week as well, and we'll be posting on our website so people have access to that. Just an implementation update for you. I want to be clear that we are moving forward with the policy and the Yonder pouches for this school year. We're going to try it out as we've talked about and as we've heard. We're going to be collecting some data as we go through the year, and I'll come back to you at the end of the year with what have we learned, right? And what was the data? We also will share back that FAQ and feedback data from the year. We have purchased and have in place or had in place mobile carts that we have mounted the unlocking devices to. So V-Ridge has 6 carts, one of which has 2 devices on it. The rest have singles. The high school has 6 carts. They all have 2 unlocking, so kids can come on both sides of the cart. We went with mobile so that we could go to the parking lot, to where the buses pick up, right? And kind of be in different locations to meet the needs of students so they can get out on time. We also were installing this week key box unlocking stations. So those are wall mounted at the buildings. There's 3 at View Ridge. We have 5 at Ridgefield High School. We have a couple additional at Ridgefield High School. We're going to watch and monitor where are the pain points, where is it getting backed up, and then we'll install the additional ones once we identify that with the flow of student traffic. The pouch checkout is happening this week. There was messaging sent out to View Ridge and Ridgefield High School families from the building principals over the weekend. We checked out 537 of them today at Ridgefield High School, and those are some of our adorable teenage boys checking out their pouches and hamming it up for the camera just a little bit. They were having a good time, like locking and unlocking. It does click when you do it, so it is very tempting to I want to just lock it. And so we had some kids who went to class and then had to come back to the library to unlock it because they hadn't put their phone in it yet. So they're figuring it out. And then, this is all the data that we're collecting throughout the year. So incidents of bullying, incidents of cyberbullying, discipline incidents in general, phone infractions specifically, and then we also will be collecting teacher and student feedback post-implementation. So as we get further into the year, and then we'll report all of that back to you at the end of the school year. So stay tuned. We're going to keep talking about this year. So the 3 that I really want to talk about is addressing the why, 504 specifically for addressing student anxiety, and I have one other one I'm going to talk, why the pouches, because that's been a pain point. And then Dr. Charlotte's going to talk about safety. So first, I just want to refresh us all on the why behind this off and away all day strategy. Number 1, the purpose of this policy and procedure is student learning and well-being. And so while we may not agree on the strategy that we're using to implement this policy, I do believe we all agree that student learning and well-being is the most important thing that we're here to do. Phones contribute to bullying, anxiety, self-esteem. They provide endless entertainment and distractions at school and in life, and cause lost learning time. The research is pretty clear about the benefits of off and away all day policies. We're also seeing more and more jurisdictions, including entire states like Texas, who are implementing an off and away all day or a complete ban of devices in all of their public schools in Texas. And having a tool to help implement, it allows teachers to focus on teaching, not being cell phone police. So some of the comments around concerns that the old system was working just fine. Why did we invest this money? Why are we doing this other thing that we don't like and we don't want to do it anyway? And the challenge is it was working sort of. It was working for about, the 50 to 75% of kids that routinely followed it. But we also had phones out, and teachers every period of every day were reminding students to put the phone away. And when that's the job the teacher ends up doing, they're focusing on that. It's not improving the relationship with our students, which we know is a precursor to actually learning things, is having that relationship. So this is really, we looked for a tool so teachers could teach. The next biggest thing is safety first. We have robust emergency protocols, which Dr. Charlotte's going to go over this evening, to ensure student safety without relying on cell phones. Having a cell phone is no part of our emergency plan. We have everything covered in terms of how do we get emergency responders there, how do we lock down a classroom, right? How do we protect ourselves? All of that happens without a cell phone. Our staff are trained. We have communication systems in place at all campuses and centrally here at Central Services. And students would be able to contact their parents as soon as the threat was neutralized. When the police tell us it's okay, then we would allow students to contact their families to let them know they're okay. In a real emergency lockdown situation, we're going to take the cue from our emergency responders. As soon as police arrive, which is within a matter of minutes, they become incident command. And at that point, we're following the directions of the police. And we don't want anything to get in the way of that. And the third is community voice. The majority of families supported limited phone use during the day through our survey process. And we'll talk a little bit about the survey because I know there's some consternation around that. But the board's decision and direction has reflected the majority voice from our community. So the second one, addressing yonder pouches, because this has been a common concern of the 13 parent emails that we've had, and also we've had public comment for a few meetings now. A lot of it has been around the pouches, not around the off and away. So first, I just want to be clear, the pouches are a student-centered strategy. It's a tool to help kids be successful in meeting the policy. It's a tool to help teachers also follow the policy, and it puts students really in the driver's seat. So I know for some, the perspective is this pouch is a punishment or a consequence. That is not how we view it as school district personnel. We see it as a tool that puts kids in charge of their own device. They keep it with them. We're not confiscating it. We're not putting it in a lockbox. We're not keeping it at the front of the room so people know what kind of phone you have or don't have. Kids get to keep their phone with them all day long. And it protects their learning and well-being. So again, it's not about taking something away from them. It's not about control or punishment. It really is about giving them back their school experience. I have had a lot of negative feedback that the pouches were not included in the community survey. So I just will say right up front, that was entirely on me. I did not include questions about that in the survey. And the reason for that was not to bamboozle anyone. This is a fun word to say. But we hadn't even looked into the pouches because, to be frank, as someone who's still fairly new to this community, I wasn't sure if there was even an appetite for an off and away policy in Ridgefield. So after seeing the number of people that said, yeah, off and away all day or no devices at all, then we researched potential tools to support our students and staff with implementation, right, in a way that would make it quick, easy, effective, efficient, get teachers back to teaching, get kids back to learning. And based on that desire, the pouches were selected, right? So students get to keep their devices and teacher time reinforcing the policy is reduced so we can focus on teaching and learning. And the third item is community voice. We do the surveys because we want to hear what people think. I've done a lot of surveys in this last year. I'm not sure how many surveys y'all did before I got here, but I'm betting it wasn't very many. And so I do genuinely want to know, and we want to continue to partner. So we are launching this FAQ feedback form that is linked on the other page, and Joe will be pushing out this week. And we're going to keep it open all year because we really do want to hear as we go through the year what's working and what's not working. Because this policy, like all of our policies and procedures, we regularly review and make adjustments based on the feedback and the data. So that's, again, part of this process is implementing for the year so that we can collect some data and determine whether this is working or it isn't working. More kids showing off their pouches. Okay.
They all look happy.
I mean, they do. They do indeed. Yeah. Okay. And then I did want to also talk about addressing student anxiety because this has come up from several folks, and I know that there's been just kind of chatter about this out in the universe as well. So first, I just want to recognize anxiety is real. It can be debilitating. It is incredibly challenging to navigate public spaces, crowds, school, bells, all the things when working through anxiety. And with all the love in my heart, I want to say calling your parent regularly is probably not the most effective long-term solution to address your anxiety as a student. We really want to empower our kids to address the root causes of their anxiety and to find coping strategies that can follow them through life. Because calling your parent every day as you go to the workplace or you go to college or you have your own family, is maybe not going to be an option, right? So we do have something called 504 plans. These are health plans, basically, where accommodations can be provided for a student. If you want to know more about a 504 plan and whether that's appropriate for your child, please reach out to your school counselor. That's the first place to start. But these are some of the accommodations that might be appropriate and help students to manage their own anxiety and build their own skills and empower them. So we have things like cool down or exit passes, where a student can basically have a pass to exit the room for a moment and have a little break. They may have a designated safe adult that typically the student is the person who identifies that adult that they feel comfortable with, that they can go to for support when they're overwhelmed. It might be preferential seating. Like when I go to restaurants, I don't like my back to the exit or the door. I like to be able to know where I'm going to run if there is something happening, right? So I might have some of my own anxiety issues. So preferential seating, which might be sitting in a corner or sitting near the door or sitting at the front so I'm not looking at all the people, or sitting in the back so I feel like nobody's looking at me. All of those things. Academic modifications, prearranged breaks in the day. There might be a prearranged nonverbal cue between the student and the teacher that the student can signal like, "Ooh, I'm kind of freaking out internally right now." Flexible presentation options. Public speaking is a huge one for a lot of folks. And then a peer support or a buddy system for things like going to lunch, right? Or walking to class. And then I did just want to share, and these are great not just for students, but for those of us that are in the adult world as well, but effective strategies that are supported by research for addressing anxiety as a condition, mindfulness and relaxation techniques. I'm all about the breathing. I have sent out lots of mindfulness tips to our staff over the last year, but breathing is a really important one. Structured problem solving, so you can keep working in your rational brain and not revert to that lizard brain where you can't function or have language. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, exposure therapy, physical activity is really good to burn off anxiety, and creative expression. And some of these things might be thinking about your schedule. At what time of day are you feeling really anxious? Is it right before going to lunch? Maybe we could have your PE class be the period before lunch, so you can kind of burn that anxiety off before you need to go get your lunch, right? Maybe you want to sign up for an art class. So there are things we can do to help students to learn how to address their anxiety and how to cope with their anxiety, rather than getting on the cell phone, which isn't teaching them skills to interact with other people, which no matter what you're going to do in life is going to be a necessity. Unless maybe park ranger, I don't know. There's not very many things, so. Was that my last one? Yeah, I guess that was my last one. Okay. And then safety is our other one. And so, I know. And so Dr. Ellis is going to talk about safety, but I'll pause if you want to talk any more about cell phones, because I'm always game to talk about more about cell phones.
I do have a question around students dealing with anxiety. Definitely recognize and appreciate the long-term strategy development and benefits. And in 504s, if a student needed to call home as part of their current moment plan as they're developing other skills, that is still an accommodation that would happen, and that would be made possible for that student if that were part of the plan.
If that was appropriate for that student. I would also say, though, that going and using the phone, like in the counselor's office, if I'm struggling truly with like a panic attack or a severe anxiety episode, we don't want a student to go lock themselves in a restroom by themselves.
Yes, I
and
appreciate
get on the
that.
phone. So we really do want a safe adult to be present. So yes, there's always the opportunity to make a phone call. It may not be from your personal cell phone.
Thank you, Mike. I think my question is really around some of the emails we've received around 504 accommodation and the pouch, and whether, my understanding is mostly we're discussing if someone is managing diabetes or something like that. But if it were part of a 504 plan for whatever reason, the phone access would be made available in the context of still supporting the safety and well-being of the student.
I'm going to say yes. I'm also just going to say that's a team conversation between the school counselor, the teacher, the family, the student. And again, we really want to encourage families to make an effort to try strategies that put students in the driver's seat first.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have a question before we move to safety that has come up in some of the social media commentary about what do we do, or how, like, the very specific way it's being, I guess, enforced is the word, but if a kid doesn't have a phone, what does that look like? What if they leave their phone in the car and then, or forget it in the car, forget it at home, something like that? What if they do get a burner phone? Like, how are those specific instances? What does that look like when we're trying to enforce this policy?
So here's the bottom line. The policy is that we shouldn't see your phone from first bell to last bell. If we don't ever see your phone, I don't know what's in your pouch. I don't know if you left your phone in your car. I don't know whether you locked it or you didn't lock it, because I don't ever see your phone. So if you're not violating the policy by having your phone out when you're not supposed to have your phone out, there is no consequence. So I know we've had a few folks say, well, I'm going to tell my kid to leave it in the car. That's great. They can leave their pouch and their phone in the car, and they don't have to lock it because it's in their car. And we'll never see their phone at school, so it will never be a problem, right? We are issuing the pouches to every single student, just like we would issue a textbook, just like we issue our Chromebooks. So every student will have one. If they don't have a phone, then that's up between them and their family, whether they're going to keep the pouch in their backpack or in their car or at home. Because again, we're never going to see their phones, so we're never checking. And I think, did that cover the car? That we had one other.
There was just a comment, I think, on one of the procedure forms that went out that said there was potentially random yonder pouch checks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think, we've updated the FAQs because there was some confusion. Like, we're not doing backpack searches. I know that we have talked about at the middle school in particular that at the start of the day, the first period has a few extra minutes. They do a planner check, they do a binder check, and so I believe they're also just going to do the pouch check, just making sure, like, do you have all your things that you need for the day? Is your phone put away if you have a phone? Right, so I do think that at the middle level, they probably would like to have the pouch with them every day, whether there's a phone in it or not. At the high school level, I don't know that we're doing a check every morning, but I'm going to actually let Dr. Ellis, because she works directly with the principals, add to that.
We are during, at the high school first period, same type of a process, and we recognize that there will be individuals who may not have a phone, and one of the strategies that the leadership team there is going to use is, so 5 days, Charlotte doesn't have a phone, quick email home, hi, Charlotte's mom. Hi, last 5 days, Charlotte hasn't brought a phone, just checking she doesn't have one. Again, we haven't seen it, she's not in trouble, we just want to make sure what's going on, whether or not Charlotte has a phone type of a deal. So I think just to reiterate what Dr. Rodriguez is saying, we're not the phone police, and that's not the intent. And so our teachers want to check, fine, move on. Let's get into some really incredible conceptual math to get those scores up.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to I appreciate you saying that the Yonder pouch is a tool, because that's truly what it is. It's assisting the kid, the young adult, to take it out of their control. And, whether you leave your phone in your car, that's control, right? Whether you put it in the pouch. But I think we know that if it's not under some type of lockdown, that thing's going to talk to you all day long. It's going to say, pick me up. When it's secured, it's not available, so you don't think about it. So it's a valuable tool. And, we do issue other things, the Chromebooks, and I don't know if we do textbooks anymore, that you're also responsible for. And if you lose it or destroy it, you pay for it. So just want to make sure everybody's clear that this isn't something new. Every kid has a Chromebook, and it comes back destroyed. Yeah, that parent's responsible for that. That student's responsible for it. So, a couple of these issues are really non-issues, but what it is anxiety is real. It's real in kids, it's real in parents, and this is a scary issue, this stepping into this unknown, because we've been able to contact our kids all the time, anytime, and this is scary. So I acknowledge that, and I just, if we all treat it as a tool, and you can either accept the tool or fight the tool, but it's not punishment. It is actually there to help you. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Dr. Charlotte Ellis, who's our new Executive Director of Schools and Leadership, serves as our principal supervisor, and she's also overseeing safety this year. And so tonight is just kind of a general overview for you, but really talking about the protocols and procedures that we have in place, that staff are trained on, they know how to implement, and that we practice throughout the year. And then at the end, I know she's going to give you lots of other things she could come and talk to you about. So we're going to be looking for your feedback on what else you would like to hear about related to safety. All right.
Thank you. Super quick before I get started, just one more anecdote on the Yonder pouches. They were handed out at the high school today. We did have one student ask us if she could bedazzle the Yonder pouch. And there's also a little hook on there, so they're looking for ways to use them as fundraisers, so you can buy a hook so you can hook it. I mean, there was a lot of excitement around the potential of bedazzling. So just another unintended, didn't know how to quite respond to that one. Like, okay. So, and
for the record, I say yes to bedazzling.
I know, as long as it's pink, I'm down with it. But the students today at the high school were incredibly kind, and as you know, I'm new to Ridgefield, and it just reaffirmed that what a beautiful place and what an honor it is to be able to serve this community. So I am Dr. Charlotte Ellis, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about school safety. So Board President Jones, Dr. Rodriguez, members of the board, thank you for giving us some time and space to talk about this very important topic that regardless of the Yonder policy and all of those, we should be talking about on a regular basis. I want to start this evening by just really setting a stage for us to understand when we talk about school safety, we need to think about school safety as a comprehensive program. Well, tonight I'm going to highlight the standard response protocol, which is our emergency response methods that we use. It's really important to understand that it's one component of a much larger umbrella that makes our schools safe. So in addition to what we're going to talk about tonight, we have very strong mental and behavioral health programs that support our kiddos. We have an exceptional nursing team throughout our buildings. We have our social and emotional learning standards, which Dr. Rodriguez alluded to around our Character Strong pilot. That is part of our comprehensive school counseling program. We have our PBIS. Every opening of the school year, we have the opportunity to participate in what we call vector training, which is a standard set of online courses around safety trainings. Those vector trainings cover everything from staff to student injuries, to boundary invasions, to seizures, bee stings, so on and so forth. It's riveting, and we enjoy the vector trainings. We also, part of our comprehensive school safety includes training our students on our available supports that we have. We have an incredible partnership with not only our local mental health agencies, but our number of other resources in our community. And while these last two are at the bottom of the list, they really are the foundation of what we do when we talk about comprehensive school safety. That relationship that a student has with a trusted adult is critical. And that's why we have policy around positive school climate and culture. That's why we do our CE surveys. That's why we spend so much time focusing really on making sure we have the right adults interacting with our kids. In addition to that positive peer-to-peer relationships. We know that if a kid says something and to another kid, it makes or breaks their day. So we really focus on those as well, being critical to our school safety planning. We're very, very lucky, like I said. Our kids here are incredible, and I'm very excited about my first homecoming game. Sidebar. Okay. Your role as board members around policy and procedures, I wanted just to call out that there are multiple policies that you oversee and implement every year that govern school safety. I just pulled this one because we're talking specifically around emergency responses tonight. So board policy 3242, emergencies, which embedded in that policy is also RCW 28A 320.125. And again, that's really connecting that positive school culture to its role in school safety. So when we talk about Ridgefield School District and our emergency response protocols, we're talking about what we refer to as SRP, or Standard Response Protocol. And Standard Response Protocol is part of what from the I Love You Guys Foundation. And the I Love You Guys Foundation was born out of, unfortunately, a tragedy. And the parents of Emily, who was tragically killed in a school shooting, developed this protocol when they found out that the response team didn't have a set of protocols that were appropriate to respond to the situation. The Standard Response Protocol is easy to understand and easy to implement. And tonight I'm going to walk you through the 5 different responses that we have and actually use the same words that the kids and the students and the staff would be hearing in some of these scenarios. So again, the more we hear it, the more we practice, the more of that muscle memory comes into play. What's unique about the I Love You Guys Foundation and the Standard Response Protocol is it's not based on different scenarios, where a lot of responses are if this, then that type of response. Here, we have 5 standard responses that we're gonna take, and you only have to learn the 5. And I have some examples of prior to in other districts that I've been in where we had the 17-inch binder was like, if a dog enters the building, this is what you do. If you have an upset parent, this is what you do. The Standard Response Protocol takes all of that guesswork out, and you have 1 of 5 actions that you're going to take, regardless if it's a stray dog or if it's an angry parent. The other component around the SRP, or Standard Response Protocol, I'm going to keep saying it, so when you hear it, because we know we have a lot of letters that make words like R-O-R-C, is the Rourke now, see? And I work at the RAC, okay? The nice thing about the SRP, Standard Response Protocol, is that it's uniformed plan and it's in place. So all of Clark County and much of Washington State and much of Oregon uses the Standard Response Protocol. So the fact that we have kids coming and going from different, as Dr. Rodriguez shared in her enrollment last board meeting, the kids come in, they don't have to learn to know a different protocol. They know a hold is a hold here at St. Helens High School, at Skyview High School. A hold is the hold because it's the same protocol. What's really nice is our ESD. We have a very robust safety consortium with our ESD who does all of our trainings. So again, all of the safety coordinators, we're all learning the same, and we can then debrief situations knowing that we're all using the same vocabulary, and we can learn from each other. Now, just because it is universal does not mean that it's not updated. So every 2 years, the entire Standard Response Protocol is reviewed with a number of agencies. They walk through scenarios and they make updates. A while back, it used to be like a lock out, and then we had a lock down, and then we had like a secure and teach, and the vocabulary got very messy. They came back and said, we're making it too complicated. We're gonna stick to 5 one-word responses so people know what is happening. Each response has a detailed action, and again, we're gonna engage in a hold here in a moment, so that'll be fun. I want to re-emphasize, these are the 5 options that we have. Our administrators are trained on these 5 responses. Our kids are trained on these 5 responses. So there's not another response that they're going to pull and say, well, it wasn't really a hold. It was like in between a hold and a secure. That just confuses people. We're going to be in a hold. We're going to be in a secure, one or the other. Again, so we avoid confusion. And as a standard response, we're always going to default to the higher security measure. If we're not sure if we should hold or secure, secure is a higher security measure. We're going to go into a secure. Okay.
Question, Dr. Ellis.
Yes.
I can't help but notice under evacuate and students, if possible, bring your phone. Can you speak to that philosophy a little bit in terms of what we're working through with our current policy? I'd love to hear what the mindset behind that is, or what their research philosophy says about that component.
I would love to.
Sure.
Absolutely. So when we do evacuate, we would be taking all of our belongings with us. So their phone at View Ridge and at the high school would be in their yonder pouch, maybe bedazzled, maybe not, and it would be evacuated with them. At the younger grades, they would not have those devices on them, so they would not take them with them. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Did you like the motions I made? Okay. All right. All right. So these are the 5 actions. Hold, which will always be purple. Secure, which will always be blue. Lockdown, which will always be red. Evacuate, which is always green. And shelter, which is always Ridgefield orange. Okay? Those are the 5 basic drills that we practice and that we would activate given a situation. Again, I'm going to walk you through each one of them, so Phil, if I'm going too fast, you just let me know. So the first one, and what we would consider the lowest safety measure, is a hold. And what we're doing is we're asking them to hold in their classroom. Stay in your classroom. There's something happening inside the building in an area that we are trying to limit access to. So what we're asking them to do is clear the hallways, remain in your classrooms, close and lock your doors, and continue teaching. Okay? So it's just, as a standard response, all of our classroom doors, we do encourage and tell the principals to make sure that they are locked. Some of our older buildings, it's more of a challenge, but we do want those classroom doors locked. In a hold, the teacher's teaching. What could be happening? Lots of different things. A medical emergency. Somebody fell down the stairs and we need to call an ambulance. We need to ensure that there is no additional traffic in that area. So we're going to hold the classrooms in their spaces. Teachers are teaching until that emergency has been cleared. Who can call a hold? Well, a building administrator can. So if somebody saw somebody fall down the stairs, they're going to get help, hit their Centegix badge, and then the principal or administrator is going to go into a hold. How is it done? Well, it's done through an intercom system, okay? When we talk about standard response protocol, and we say it's a very holistic approach, our administrators have step-by-step guides that we expect them to follow. So for example, Tawny had an employee trip on the sidewalk. Trip pretty bad, we're gonna need to call EMS. What we can't have is all the kindergartners going out to play, so she calls a hold in her building. What you would hear Tawny say over the intercom system in her building is, hold in your room and clear the halls, okay? She would repeat that 2 times, because the first time we're playing over here, what did she say? She will say it 2 times. Hold in your rooms or area and clear the halls. So 2 times, teachers go over, they're gonna lock their doors. Okay, kids, we're gonna go on to math and continue to teach. Now, if it was then their recess time, that teacher knows Tawny has not made an all clear call. We're just gonna have recess a little bit later, lunch a little bit later, or move and adjust depending on the length of the emergency. Once the emergency has been cleared, Tanya would get back on the intercom and simply say, staff and students, the hold is released, all clear. Thank you for your assistance in making this hold work smoothly. And then the teacher would be like, okay, great, it's time for us to go to recess, pack up, and then we would go to recess. On the back end, Tanya has some work to do around some documentation that she has to do, but then the hold is over and we continue to go on. So hold is done when there is an emergency need inside the building that is not an imminent threat. We simply need to limit access to a particular area for a particular reason. Medical emergency is the most common. There may be an escalated student. I've had situations where I had an escalated parent that we simply needed to make sure that students were not out and about where the situation was occurring. The next one is a secure. Yes, that is a bobcat. And that is actually from something that really did happen. So a secure is when we are going to ask the students and the teachers to return to inside the building. So if you're at PE, you're coming inside the building. You're going to close and lock all exterior and interior doors. You're going to remain in the classroom and you are going to teach. Why would we do a secure? We would do a secure if there was a threat outside or near the campus. This was a bobcat. He was trying to get in and eventually did get in. I don't know how he got in. He didn't tell me, but he just got into the classroom. But a secure is when there is a threat on or around the neighborhood. Usually it has something to do with law enforcement. They may be serving a warrant in the neighborhood and are concerned that somebody's going to flee. There may be a gas leak down the way, something exterior that we don't want inside. Again, this is not when we would do a lockdown, and we're going to get into that. Who can call a secure? The building administrator, or if the police, Chief Kathy comes and says, we're going to serve a warrant, I'm concerned about this, I think we need to go into a secure, then we would take the direction of our local law enforcement. Again, on a secure, that's a whole campus action, and then again, an intercom announcement, we're going into a secure. It's done two times. We remain in that until we are released, or if deemed necessary, we would go into a higher safety threshold. Okay. Okay. Now.
How do you break out of a secure? Same as the hold?
Same as the hold. Yep. We would simply, Tanya would get on the intercom and say, thank you, students. We're out of a secure. Thank you for doing to make it smooth, so on and so forth. Whatever this, and it's almost the exact same words. She would get out her script and read it. And the script is key because we also want to make sure that they know we're not giving over information or under information. So, now, one of the questions we get a lot is what's the difference between a hold and secure? The key fundamental difference is a hold is an isolated incident inside of the building where we need to simply keep kids away from a particular area. So like at our elementary schools, it may be that we just need to hold one building, or we may need to hold the whole facility. A secure is everyone is brought inside because there's an external threat that we need to make sure everyone is inside for. So could a hold go into a secure? It absolutely could. If maybe something was going on in one building, that person fled the building, then was going to make their way to the next building, we would then move into a secure. Again, an administrator can make that call over the PA system, radio, so on and so forth. As standard procedure, we will always default higher if the administrator is like, should we hold or secure? And we're going to tell them go to secure, because teaching and learning is still happening in both of those scenarios, which is absolutely key. One just limits the amount of movement inside of the building.
If law enforcement calls the secure, you wait for law enforcement to release the secure?
Absolutely. Yep, we would take our direction from them. They would, historically, in my experience, they come and say, you know, we've served the warrant, all is fine, you can take your school out of the secure mode. Yep, yep. And we had our first meeting with Chief Kathy, and again, what a beautiful partnership we have with Ridgefield Police Department, and the willingness to have such a collaborative relationship to ensure that we're all speaking the same language. They're very familiar with our standard response protocol, so they come to our facilities already speaking the language, so we don't have to figure out, okay, so we call that a secure, what do you guys call it? They know our the same words, so that's super helpful in the process. Before I move on to the next one, I'm gonna have a mindful moment, because we know that this is the one that is the heaviest. And I'm a parent of 2 children. I'm the aunt of the best nephews on the planet. And so my mama heart comes to work every single day. So I completely understand when we're talking about safety and things like that, it's a real fear, and I understand that. I also understand and trust that we are well-trained administrators. I been in charge of safety and security in a lot of districts, and I will say Ridgefield is above and beyond very large, complex school districts. So as we talk about the lockdown, there are some just key things we need to know. We just need to know. The power of the locked door is crucial. We tell our teachers, you have to keep your doors locked. Our exterior doors have to be locked. We can't be propping them open. My brother's a band teacher, and I'm always on. I'm like, don't prop your band doors open, and you're pulling the instruments in, so on and so forth. The power of the locked door is critical to ensuring school safety. Inconvenient at times, absolutely. However, it's fundamental to ensuring that we are safe. The other piece, before I click to the lockdown slide, is, fun fact for my administrators, you'll learn in this information, under the direction of our amazing tech department, we have just installed a 911 rapid notification system. So if there is a 911 call anywhere on our campuses, the principal and designated office staff will get a notification, and us at Central Service get a notification, which is new. And so we're very excited around that. We had a test that worked real successful, and then we had not a test that worked real successful. So I was like, oh, it's working. Oh, that was, so. So we continue to improve our safety protocols. That is just one more measure that is powerful when we talk about lockdowns. So what is a lockdown? A lockdown is locks, lights, and out of sight. If we were to go into a lockdown, we would shut the blinds as quickly as we could. We would turn off all lights. We'd lock the doors. We would get out of the line of sight, and we would all be very, very quiet. It's important, and I'm going to say this a couple times. In a real lockdown event, law enforcement is automatically notified via our Syntegix buttons. And I have a slide on Syntegix too, but so this is our little Syntegix button. Every staff member has one. If we needed to call a lockdown, we would click this thing like crazy. It's going to send a long vibration. Then the strobe goes red. This strobe right here is going to go red on Danny and Jenny and Dr. Rodriguez's laptops, and probably on yours. It'll come up an instant notification, we are in lockdown. That happens to every teacher's desktop, every administrator, everyone's laptop in the district is notified instantaneously via our Syntegix of a lockdown, okay? It also notifies its first responders. That is, in addition to our locked doors, our best defense and our quickest response. Okay?
Can you dive deeper into the actual alert a teacher would receive in their room, laptop? Like, is there sound? Is there more to it? Like, what if we're teaching and you're not at your desk and don't see the screen? Like, give us some more color to that.
Yeah, so if like it happened right now, on this screen, automatically it takes over. It's and it is bright and red and it says we are in a lockdown. I didn't put it in the slides, but I have a copy of it that I'm happy to show you. It says we are in a lockdown, and we do not do that for a drill. So if we're doing a lockdown drill, they know that's a drill. We don't use our Centegix buttons to activate that. But it is instantaneous. It is now. It is live. There are sirens going off. It is no secret that we are in a lockdown. Yeah.
I would just add, so she's talking about this little light that's you can see attached to the ceiling. These are in every classroom, pretty much every space at the campus. So that light's gonna go off. So even if I'm not looking at the computer, even if I'm not, I don't have most of our teachers honestly have their computer attached to their screen, so it's live and the whole classroom can see it. But you also have that going off, and in some cases, intercom recordings as well. So we're making sure everybody knows as quickly as possible.
And site responders, administrators, us here at Central Services have indicator maps, so we would know exactly what room it's happening at as well, and so does law enforcement.
Question. So that light, does it go off when the fire alarm is pulled?
Oh, great question. It does not, because this is related to Centegix only, and our fire alarm system is not connected to that. However, that is something that we are exploring, because the I Love You Guys Foundation and the 5 light colors, the purple, does have a partnership with Centegix. And so that is one of the things that we are exploring and diving into when we adopted Centegix, what all components and some looking back at historical rationale why we did and didn't adopt particular things.
Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
I think you said also, but if someone were to initiate the lockdown, you said it automatically alerts the central services administrators and also law enforcement?
Yes.
And do they also have the map to show the locations?
Yes, they do.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Yeah. So when would we do a lockdown? And a lockdown is when we have an immediate, imminent threat inside our building. An assailant on campus, an intruder or an active assailant, a person with a weapon on campus, an escalated adult situation. Just personal experience, as many of you know, I spent the part of the last year helping St. Helens School District. And day 3 there, thank goodness I knew standard response protocol coming into a new district. I had an escalated adult situation. And while we went into a hold, then we went into a secure, the design of the building, because we were under construction, just allowed too much access for this escalated adult. I made the decision to go into lockdown. This escalated adult did not have a weapon or any of those things. However, I was concerned enough about the mental health of her getting into a particular classroom until law enforcement could get there, which they were very quickly to be there. So while we typically associate a lockdown with an armed assailant in the building, there are some other circumstances where that may not be the case. We do a lockdown drill. That is one of the expectations that we have. Again, we want muscle memory. So we can't ever truly reenact what it's gonna feel like. But we do want to make sure that the kids are prepared and that they know the actions to take. Who can call a lockdown? Any staff member. Any staff member can call 911. They can use their Centegix badge. It does not have to be administrator approval. We want people to activate as soon as they feel as if that is a necessary call. And again, we are always going to overreact than underreact. We have had a couple instances with the Centegix badges that people were, yep, it happens, and we work through that process. The Centegix badges do not work off of campus, so if I gave it to my little nephew in Chehalis and he was playing with it, he wouldn't send the central services into lockdown. Hopefully, no, I'm just kidding. Where all of school campus goes into lockdown, neighboring campuses if warranted. So we have this scenario, we have Union right next door. If central services needed to go into lockdown, we would most likely put Union into lockdown. If the high school went into lockdown, we most likely would put View Ridge into lockdown. Again, because we're not sure where that threat may proceed to. And again, how can you do it? 911, the alarm, intercom, lockdown buttons in the principal's offices is another notification way. Okay. Any more questions on the lockdown?
Any special criteria or action for portables?
For portables?
Yeah.
Yeah, same expectation. You lock your doors. Those doors should already be locked, particularly if they're an exterior lock. Close your shades, get away out of line of sight. What's key about a lockdown is we don't come out of a lockdown just by an intercom announcement. We come out of a lockdown, a real lockdown situation, room by room, by the police department or the first responders. Because they will clear room to room to room, which then also, I know it increases anxiety, it's like all of these things, but they have to make sure that every room is cleared. Yeah. In a drill, we don't have law enforcement there. Administrators will clear the rooms. We also train our administrators and our students, like, don't open the door. Like, once it's locked, it's locked. And again, when I was at Pasco High, largest high school in the state of Washington for quite a while, we would knock, like, it's Charlotte, let me in. And then they would be like, if you're really Charlotte, you have keys, right? And I was like, oh, that's a true point. So once those doors are locked, they are locked. That's why those teachers are gonna get as many kids in their classroom as fast as they can, lock, out of sight, and quiet.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Does the Centegix system work for example, after school hours activities and things like, what does a lockdown look like if we needed to do something like at an after school event, or are staff trained on things like that at a sporting event that happens to be taking place at the school, or an activity that's after school hours?
Yeah, great question. Yes, our Centegix badges work anytime you're on school, 24/7 on a school campus. After hours, absolutely. We're going to go into our lockdown, secure procedures. That's where we would rely on, I'm just thinking it's a volleyball game, right? And we have parents who aren't familiar with our protocols and so on and so forth. Our staff is going to have to direct, instruct, get people where they need to be. Absolutely. Worst case scenario is we have to maintain, and that's why training and making sure our community is aware of these processes and our families is critical and part of the mission that we have over the course of the year. Yeah. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, like, in those moments, like, I'm a control person, like, I would want to take over even if I didn't know what was going on. We have to rely on the training that our teachers, our administrators have in these moments, and it's really hard because, like, they know what they're doing. They know where to get the people to be out of sight and to be safe. All right. Evacuate is always green. Get it? Green, go. See? This is one of the, if you think about, like, this is a fire drill, is our primary evacuation type of a scenario. What's happening is we are asking them to exit the building in an orderly fashion. Why would we do this? To ensure student safety away from a threat inside of in the building. Again, a fire or a fire alarm, a gas leak, a bomb threat, or if our first responders came and asked us to evacuate the building, we would do so. Who can call and evacuate? A building administrator, or if you see smoke and fire, pull the fire alarm. You won't get in trouble. We want you to pull the fire alarms if you see smoke and fire, not just because you want to get out of a test. What would evacuate all of the school campus? How would you know? We would do an intercom announcement, an alarm system, and we would follow district procedures. So typically you're having your fire alarms. We have those drills. It's the same as what we did when we were all in school. We have places where we line up. We have protocols that the buildings have. We have clipboards that have like red or green signs that says green, all of my kids are here. Red, oh, I'm missing a kid. Then our administrators walk through, who are you missing? I'm missing Amber. Okay, oh, that's okay, because Amber was in the library, the librarians got him, or got her. So there's those internal protocols that happen when we do things like an evacuation drill as well. And the last one is shelter. And why would we do a shelter? We would do a shelter to respond to appropriate safety strategies for a specific hazard or a threat. We want to keep everyone safe during a severe weather or hazmat emergency. For example, earthquake drill. 1016 at 1016 is our statewide earthquake drill. Tsunami, again, not necessarily here. Tillamook, we did tsunami trainings. Hazmat, we would seal the room. Tornado, again, not necessarily something we would experience, but if we did, we would evacuate to a designated shelter area. Who can do this? A building administrator in collaboration with CRESA, who I meet with also monthly, they would notify us there's a potential tornado or potential tsunami, and we're gonna need to shelter in place. The entire campus would shelter, and again, we would notify the students via intercom, and we would ask them to follow our staff directions. So again, this one is a little bit more flexible because we would respond appropriately to whatever the hazard is. If it's the earthquake, we're gonna get underneath our desks. If it's a gas leak, we're gonna seal the room, so on and so forth. Again, 2 times over the intercom, 2 times when we come out of the shelter drill. Strategics we've talked about a little bit, and again, it's 1 badge, 2 types of help. If you have a non-lockdown emergency, I fell down the stairs and I can't get up, I'm gonna click this guy 3 times. It's gonna alert the administrator, the site responders. They're gonna be able to look on their phone or their desktop to be, oh, Charlotte fell down the stairs in this part of the building. They would respond to that building. Lockdown, you're just gonna keep pressing it until you feel the vibration. You'll see the sirens, the strobe lights, and you'll see the other alerts. Again, Strategics is an incredible tool that we are very fortunate to have. It's used throughout the country, and it is connected right to law enforcement. Any other questions on Strategics?
One more question.
Yeah.
Is there an intercom function on the Strategics badge as well, so someone can speak through it, or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
With Strategic, I'm saying that wrong, but the fire alarms are fire alarms. Like if you saw a building, you wouldn't hit that button. You would go find a fire alarm.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yes. And just in conclusion here, some additional safety topics. If you found this riveting and you want more, I'm available. I'm free every other Tuesday night. We can talk about our safety partners, our ESD, CRESA, RPD, Clark CCSO, which is our Clark County Sheriff's Office. People are making fun of me left and right because I didn't know what their work was the other day. Real life counseling, family solutions. In February, we will be talking with you all about our Character Strong, our SEL curricular adoption, our comprehensive school counseling plan, which is also directed by a board policy, our safety drills, our reunification plan. My friend Luke and I get to go to training tomorrow on reunification with ESD, PBIS, district-wide nursing supports, or any other staff training requirements that you may have. Anything safety related that you think about that you'd like additional information, I would be happy to provide that to you or nominate one of my amazing colleagues. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any additional questions.
Can you speak to security officers? I understand we moved away from third-party Phoenix.
Correct.
Now they're in-house district employees.
Yeah.
Can you refresh us and the public as to what changed with that shift and what their roles look like, which buildings they're at, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did move away from our contract with Phoenix. My understanding is there were some discussions around that decision being made. So currently we moved to in-house security officers. We have two. We have one at the high school and one at View Ridge Middle School. They perform similar duties. They are not armed as they had been in the past. They're clearly identified as security. They have security uniforms, I guess is probably the best way to describe them. And they work in conjunction with each site's leadership team to ensure the safety of our students. Does that?
I would just add that because of the partnership we have with RPD, that they're invited to RPD trainings that happen throughout the year. So we're excited about that opportunity for them. Last year we had 2 officers at the high school, 1 at the middle. So we did go down to 1 at the high school and then maintained 1 at the middle school. We have been in conversation with RPD around the possibility of a student resource officer, which is an actual police officer who would carry a weapon. That takes some time to put that in place. So I think it's something that we're in conversation with the police department and the city about. And their budget timeline is not the same as our school district budget timeline. They also are a little bit short-staffed right now, and it takes considerable amount of time from the time an officer is hired. They have to go to the academy, they have to pass everything, and then they have additional training. So before they're actually out on the street, it's a 12 to 18 month timeline to do that. We have some amazing RPD officers here who volunteer every chance they get to be at student activities, career fairs, Careers on Wheels, all kinds of things. So we have some great folks here that would be amazing candidates for that, but it will probably take a bit of time to get those agreements worked out.
With the placement of middle school, high school, but not our elementaries, is that more industry standard for a district of our size? Is it strictly financial? Why do we not have officers at our elementaries? I've always been curious.
In my experience, it is standard that we have them at the middle and the high school. If there is a need for something at the elementary school, our principals can collaborate and ask one of them to go down to the elementaries. I'm thinking about in my experience in Yakima, my experience in Pasco, we did not have security at the elementary levels at all. And those were very large, complex systems.
I don't know if this is like a future conversation more than right now, but I would love to hear more about our protocol for communication, family communication. After everybody's okay and safe. I think that would be helpful just to hear kind of what our process is and what's the standard process. I know as a parent I've received communications over the years when there's been maybe a secure or something and information shared out, but I imagine that is also, I know that is one of the concerns. So I'd love to share more with the community and also learn more myself about exactly what we do in terms of getting students back with family after an incident, if there, God forbid, is one, and then also just communication across the board, regardless of which of the 5 we're dealing with.
Yes, just in generally speaking, I can definitely say that when we do go into one of the 5, we do message out through Parent Squared Alert, which is that instant notification to all of our families. And that's either generated via the building or through our Director of Communications. And then to the other point, the reunification process, yes, I would love to come back and give all of the details, because that is it is complex because it is off-site. And there would be multiple steps that we would want to kind of talk about and share the reason behind the decision making. And it's really interesting when you get down to thinking about a reunification site, because there's so many factors that we have to take into consideration. Even for example, Pioneer, the roundabouts, that in its issue is a barrier to having a reunification coming off of there. Because you think about if something had to happen at the high school, that you can't get through those roundabouts, and emergency vehicles cannot get through those roundabouts. So I would be happy to come back and spend some time digging into the reunification process, and because I think it's super important we're real clear about the why behind where we're going to reunify at, and what parents would want to know. Because again, you don't lose that mommy hat when I put this badge on every morning. So absolutely, I'd be honored to.
I don't get a whole lot of people asking me questions, and so I was kind of saving this for board communications, but you tie this in perfectly. There has been concern about removing the 2 armed guards from the high school, and I just want to be clear that the route that we went, I was fully in support of.
Yeah.
I like having a security guard that's staffed by Ridgefield School District.
Yes.
So that's valuable to me. What I want to continue to keep working towards is the relationship with our police department and trying to get that staff member kind of on campus. I think from a community standpoint, it's good on both sides. This is a fear. It's unfortunately a fear for parents, for students, and for teachers.
Yes.
They want to be protected at their work as well.
Absolutely.
So I just, this is again another change. I think it is ultimately a change for the better, but that we just got to fill this little gap. So it was brought to me. I'm so happy that you've done this presentation today. It was well done. It gives me peace that, it's taught all the way through. It's consistent. It's simple enough, but that simple is effective.
Yes.
And thank you.
Well, thank you. Dr. Rodriguez, is there anything else, board?
First one down. Thank you. Yeah. I think to your point, President Jones, also, I meet regularly with the other superintendents in Clark County and Clark and Cowlitz combined, and I did ask our Clark County team how many of you employ your own security versus an outside agency, and the majority do employ. And then in terms of whether they're armed or not, there is one district locally that has tasers for their security staff, but all others are unarmed. So again, kind of to the question around elementary, why don't we have security staff at elementary? That's kind of the standard within our industry across our state. So we're on to board communication.
Oh, we are on board communication. So let's start with Donna. Let's see if Donna's got anything.
I I don't, thank you.
All right, feel better, Donna. Thank you. Jake.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Thank you, Dr. Ellis, for really informative presentations. I appreciate the up-to-date continued dialogue around the cell phone policy. It's not like it was an issue that happened, we're done, we're moving on. We're continuing to listen, to hear feedback. I respect the merit of the dialogue we've seen, whether it's Facebook comments or emailing us, the board, or coming to speak at public comment. Those all have a lot of power. I would encourage our community to talk to us directly as well. And if you asked us to have a coffee or take a phone call, the answer is going to be yes. With that opportunity tomorrow, I have my monthly office hours. My community exchange with City Councilor Ryan Davis is 4 to 5 at Bunny's Pizza, downtown Ridgefield. If you can't make that, or if you can't make one of our board meetings, I would just challenge anyone who has strong feelings that really wants to get to one of us and have a real conversation to please find a way to do so. I think if you ask via email or come meet us at one of these meetings, I know this group, one of us or all of us, will meet you where you are. And I'll be in the buildings of Sunset Ridge and RHS later this week, and looking forward to seeing students and staff. That's all.
Thanks, Jake. Amanda.
I'll echo the thank you for the presentation, Charlotte. That was really nice to see how everybody's trained. Dr. Ellis, sorry. I appreciate the clarity around all of those things because that's different than when I went to school. So, and also the clarifications around the centegics, because I know that that's not really a widely known thing out in our community. So having clarity over what that does and how teachers and staff can use that and how it helps just keep all of our kids safe is really helpful. And again, thank you for all the cell phone information and continuing the conversation to the community. I appreciate all the emails. And even if I don't respond, I'm terrible at that. I'll take full responsibility for that. I'm much better at coffee and phone calls and walks and anything like that. So reach out to me, and I would much prefer that than having to write back. I don't like that. What was I going to say about that? I don't remember what else I was going to say about that, but this is, it's a continuing process. So just, I know that it's like kind of an experiment, and we're going to see how it goes, but I do hope that everybody tries it before we pass judgment on whether or not it's good or bad, or how you feel about it. Like, let's just give it an opportunity to surprise us for good. So maybe it will be awesome, because if, the what ifs, maybe it'll be great. And I hope so, and I think so it will be. I got to do my first real adventure as your interim legislative representative for our school board. And I attended the WASDA, which stands for Washington School, Washington State School Directors Association. We are all part of that group. We get to go to conference now each year. And as part of WASDA, people on the board can take different roles. And so Jake last session stepped down, and I was elected interim into that legislative role. And what that means is I got to attend the general session, and that was a 4-hour-long Zoom where we get to go through all of the proposals and amendments to the policies. So when we talk about WASDA model policies, which are where a lot of our policies come from, those are a huge process in the making, and they're continually being updated and amended at the state level. And this was part of that process. So this was the process where each legislative rep from each school district, there's only one that's allowed to vote on each of the proposals and amendments. So there's discussion. The proposals and amendments are brought to everyone, and there's discussion. You can weigh in on the Zoom pro for an amendment or con. The discussions were very, it was a really great discussion, basically, very diplomatic. There was a lot of discussion, pro and against. For example, I will give you just one of the topics, just so you kind of get an idea of one of them. one that there's a legislative committee that's also put together in each region that goes and looks at these proposals first and says, we think that as a school, as a state, we should vote for this proposal or against it. So there's a smaller group that sits and really digs into the pros and against and all of that stuff. And all of that is also presented during this general session. So you get to read through all of that. And for example, some of the things that were brought up that were voted on, one was on governance training and making it a requirement for school directors. So instead of it being an optional thing where we get training on how to do our jobs, they were saying maybe we should make it a requirement. And it was recommended do not pass, and it actually did not pass because, as in the discussion and was laid out, it was that there's only so much money, basically, that goes around, and if you make it a requirement, it puts a undue burden on a lot of the smaller districts that are a lot more strapped for cash. And so if you make it a requirement, somebody has to pay for that training, and it will become an unfunded mandate. It was the term that was used. So I got to vote on 27 of those, and it was really exciting to be a part of that. And there's only like 124 of us that were voting members, and it felt very powerful. And I hope I did us proud. And I will be bringing, in a few days, they're going to be sending out an email where we will, as a board, go over our top 10 legislative priorities and then forward that on to the group, and then they will then build proposals and things and go from that point on. So we get to be part of this process. So there's that. What else was I going to talk about for board communication? I think that's basically it. Before you see us again, CISPS will have happened. So good luck to all you CISPS staff out there. I'm just so excited. I love that there's so few pictures that we get to see, but like, please take a couple and share them because I love them so much. Homecoming is happening this Friday. That's going to be really exciting. It's our 50th anniversary of the stadium being built and opened. And then also there was a little chatter on social media about bike bus, and I just want to throw out there that I'm your girl. Like, I love the idea of a bike bus. I've been like promoting it every chance I get. If you are somebody in the community that really wants to see that happen and really wants to take that on, like, let's talk. We'll get that going.
Well done, Amanda. Thank you. Amber.
You're a fun one to follow every time. I just want to say thank you, Director Ronstadt, for the energy you're putting in as our legislative representative. You clearly have found a great home with that position. I learned a lot from you about the process of how model policy is created. And I hope that we can continue to learn more ahead of time as well so that we can back you up with what our district wants to be supporting. So thank you for representing us in that context. Last meeting I said I'd be doing my coffee on the first Thursday of every month, and I was wrong because I meet with Dr. Rodriguez on the first Thursday of every month, which is why it was in my head, apparently. So I will be doing coffee on the second Thursday of every month at Lava Java at 9 a.m. I'm going to set these out for October, November, and December so far, and then we'll regroup and make sure that's still a good time to connect with people. The first one for the fall will be October 9th. So October 9th, 9 a.m. at Lava Java. I believe Director Ronstadt might be joining me for that one.
Yes.
Special guest of. And again, you can come and talk about anything that you want to related to the schools. I'm really there to just listen and make sure that I'm available. And again, like my other colleagues up here have said and stated, if that time does not work for you, please let me know. If you want to meet with me, I really do want to make myself available as much as I can with my schedule. So please let me know if that's not the right time for you. I do understand a lot of people have 9-to-5 jobs. So if that's not the right time, please reach out to me and we'll make it work.
Thanks, Amber. Mine is going to be fairly quick. I just want to make sure that we are not working with a yonder policy. We are working with a cell phone policy, and that's what we up here agreed on. And because yonder is a tool that we talked about today, my choice was no devices whatsoever. So this was kind of finding a happy medium. If the yonder doesn't work, we may go to what I would prefer, which would be not. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that this might be one of the biggest decisions a school board makes, is this one of the most impactful of how learning is done, because it was something that needed to be fixed. And the only way it gets fixed is if people support, and they don't have to like it, but get on board with it, because it is your kids, their education is at the forefront of our thoughts. We didn't make this decision because we're trying to hold over power on anybody or discipline anybody. This is to help them be successful and help teachers have a successful teaching environment. So I want to be clear, yonder is taking a big distraction. Give it a chance. We've said give it a chance. I think that Dr. Rodriguez prepared a very good kind of description, laying out kind of the questions that have been brought up, hit some highlights. The highlighted points come up over and over and over. The 504 comes up almost every time. And the answer from our side has never changed. It's never changed. We are not going to go break a 504 policy. That's not in our best interest. That's not part of the goal. We're not going to search somebody's bags. That's not part of the goal, right? The goal is to keep the phones out of the way. So, I could go on and on about the same things that keep getting brought up. Dr. Rodriguez has responded to every email personally. I've read them. I get that same response. I know that she's answering the questions. Today is communication on how the process is going. I just hope people will choose to listen, maybe not like the decision, but for the best of education, that they move forward and work with it, right? Like, we don't want to drag an anchor, all right? We need to move past this, try to be successful, because if the policy works, your kid succeeds. The education process succeeds. So, everybody will make their own decisions. I just want you to know where our thought process is, and it is always what's in best interest of all the kids that come into our facilities. And that starts with cell phones, goes to security, goes to everything that this district staff works for. We are here to support that. We are fully on board, and we, like I said, this may be one of the biggest influential things that as a board and as a district do in our terms here. So that's how much I believe in it. With that, we move to old business.
I feel like after last meeting, I should say, are you sure you're done, President Jones? And people who don't know what that's about, go back and watch the video. Okay, moving to old business. Item, Roman numerals 8A, approving revised board policy number 3110, qualifications of attendance and placement. This was last updated April of 2016. This will bring it current with current WASDA model policy. We're also updating based on feedback from our staff, and we recommend approval of the school board. This is our second reading, so we are asking for approval this evening.
I move that we approve item 8A as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Moving to item 8B, approving revised board policy number 3210, non-discrimination. This one was updated in November of 2016. So again, this brings the policy into alignment with WASDA model policy. We're recommending approval this evening of the revised policy number 3210, non-discrimination.
I move that we approve item 8B as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This next one, I'm just going to talk a little bit because I'm really proud and excited for the next one that I'm bringing to you. This is a new board policy that's not been in place here in Ridgefield previously. It's board policy number 5161, civility in the workplace. We've not adopted one before, but WASDA does provide a model policy. Ours is in alignment with the model policy, and it provides clear expectations to ensure that we foster a professional, respectful environment for everyone, our staff, our families, our visitors, and our community members. Our students and treatment of our students is covered in other policies. And as we continue to build a supportive and positive district culture and work to build the trust, like we've talked about tonight, and improve community relationships, this is really a formal commitment on behalf of the board and myself as the superintendent and our district that we strive to maintain the personal dignity for every human being with whom we have contact. So I happily recommend approval of school board policy number 5161, civility in the workplace this evening.
I move that we approve item 8C as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say that I went to a presentation at the WASDA conference last year. That was with a district that had developed their civility policy, and they shared about the impact of that and how important it was for their district. And I know that you also did a lot of work getting input earlier on in your time with us. So I just want to say that I support this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And item 8D, approving reverse board policy number 5253, maintaining professional staff and student boundaries. This one also was last updated in 2016. There have been a number of updates to the WASDA model policy, so again, this would bring this in alignment to that. In addition to the policy and procedure updates that we are asking for this year, all district staff were required to complete the Understanding Boundaries training module in August, which Dr. Ellis referenced with her excitement and joy around vector training, and learning about appropriate boundaries, effective boundary principles, examples of boundary violations, how to address them, how to implement effective boundaries with students, and understanding the mandatory reporting obligations, organizational policies, and consequences of violating state laws. So again, we recommend approval of the revised school board policy number 5253, maintaining professional staff and student boundaries.
I move that we approve item 8D as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
All right. Takes us to new business. Item 9A, approving the easement and right-of-way utility easement with Clark PUD on the Sunset Ridge Elementary School property located at 7025 North 10th Street, Ridgefield, Washington, 98642. And really, they do say easement in there twice. I don't know, but we verified it. So the easement is necessary for the Public Utility District, our PUD, to install and maintain electrical infrastructure on our district property. It allows them to install the new electrical system, including power lines and a surface-mounted transformer. It provides access to the area to perform construction, repairs, and ongoing maintenance, and connects our new facilities in order to provide power to nearby adjoining properties. The PUD needs this legal right to ensure they can provide reliable electricity for our new elementary campus. Without this agreement, they would be unable to legally access the property to do the required work. The easement affects a 10-foot wide strip of land on the elementary property, and you have that in your packet this evening as Exhibits A and B. It is a minimal impact as we retain ownership of that strip of land, insofar as it doesn't interfere with the PUD's use for electrical purposes. The PUD is also responsible for the costs related to the installation and maintenance of their equipment in the easement area. We are recommending approval of the easement and right-of-way utility easement between Ridgefield School District and PUD number 1 of Clark County on the Sunset Ridge Elementary property.
I move that we approve item 9A as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You'll make all the construction people happy with that decision. They're ready to go. Item 9B is approving the contract with ESD 112 for the Cooperative Information Management Agreement. This is our Skyward Student Information System for the 25-26 school year. This is a renewal agreement. We've had this in place for a number of years. We receive some support with our Skyward services from ESD 112. This year's contract is a small increase from last year's contract due to inflationary salary adjustments for ESD staff and anticipated increases in student enrollment because this contract is on a per pupil basis. We do recommend approval of the renewal agreement with ESD 112 for this purpose.
I move we approve item 9B as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and that takes us to our last item for the evening, 9C, hearing first read of revised board policy number 2020, course design, selection, and adoption of instructional materials. This policy establishes how we adopt new curricular materials. It was also last updated in 2016. That was like a banner year for updating policies, apparently. The district is required to adopt this revised policy in alignment to the WASDA model policy to satisfy mandatory OSPI requirements for selecting curriculum. In other words, we're required to pass this policy. So we will recommend that you review it, and we will bring it back to you for second read at our first October meeting around course design, selection, and adoption of instructional materials. And if you're wondering what changed, you have in the packet, and it's available to the public as well, the track changes document, so you can see exactly what the updates are. Happy to answer any questions.
I'm just curious if there's a large update to the procedural document that goes with this, and I think my question mostly is, once upon a time, I was on the instructional materials committee for a minute.
Fantastic.
And I'm not clear on the current status of it, and I was just curious, is that in procedural documents, like what and how that operates?
It is indeed,
Okay.
yeah. We're in the process of working through our updates, one, to be in alignment to the required new policy, but also just to make some adjustments. You know, I just have to make edits. So we have some updates just to our regular curriculum review and adoption process. And we need to get back to having a standing instructional materials committee, or it's also known as the IMC, as we do love our acronyms, particularly around supplemental materials. So for some time now, there has not been really an approval process in place for supplemental materials, and there does need to be one.
Thank you. Well, do we have executive session tonight?
We do not.
We do not. All right. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a good night, and I adjourn the meeting.
And it's dark. Not cool.